We're going to go over a couple problems as it relates to Chapter 7. We're going to start with problem 7-6. This is similar to your assignment 7-7. So basically, Garrett Company has the following transactions during the month of April and May. So we see on April 1st, there was a balance of units of 400 units. And then on April 17th, there was a purchase of 200 units at $5.50. Then on April 27th, we have a sale of 150 units. On April 28th, we have a purchase of 100 units at $5.75 a unit. May 5th, a purchase of 250 units at $5.50 a unit. May 18th, a sale of 300 units. And May 22nd, a sale of 50 units. So it tells us the cost of the inventory on April 1st is $5, $4, and $2 per unit, respectively. Under FIFO, average, and LIFO cost flow assumptions. So on April 1st, for FIFO, we're at $5 a unit. For LIFO, we're at $4 a unit. And for the average cost flow assumption, we're at $2 per unit. Our job is to compute the inventories at the end of each month and the cost of goods sold for each month for the following alternatives. So the first alternative we're going to use is the FIFO periodic. Now we know with FIFO periodic, we will not take an inventory count till the end of the period or the end of the month. So for FIFO periodic, we're going to calculate the inventories at the end of each month and the cost of goods sold for each month for these alternatives. So with FIFO periodic, our April 1st balance of 400 units, the cost is $5 per unit. So let's take a look at FIFO periodic, how we're going to show the sale. We know that on April 25th, we sold 150 units in April, and then in May, we sold 350 units. So if we look here, April, we started with 400 units. Let me just go back and confirm this. 400 units is what we started with, and we purchased another 200 and sold 150 and then purchased another 100. So in total, we purchased an additional 300 units in April. So we started with 400 units in April. We purchased 300 units in April, and we sold 150 units, which gave us an ending inventory of 550 units. Now let's go and look at May. In May, we started with 550 units. We purchased another 250 units, and we sold 350 units. So as you can see here, we purchased 250, we sold 350, so we have an ending inventory there of 400 units. Now using the FIFO periodic, FIFO means first in, first out. We started with 400 units and we sold 150 units. Remember that these 400 units were valued at $5 a piece. So if we sold 150 of these 400 units, we have remaining 250 units here at $5 a piece, or $1,250. Then we can go here and see we purchased another 200 units at $5.50. And then on April 28th, another 100 units at $5.75. So we've got our 200 units at $5.50, another 100 units at $5.75. So we see here for the ending inventory in April, 550 units, and again, this was based on the initial beginning inventory, on our purchase, and then again on our purchase. So we have $2,925 sitting in ending inventory. Now we know we sold 150 items, and we sold them at that initial beginning inventory price of $5 an item. So we have our ending inventory of 150 times $5 an item, which basically gives us our $750 cost of goods sold. Now what they're doing here is we're showing our beginning inventory, 400 at $5 an item, plus our various purchases, minus our ending inventory we have up here of $29.25, will give us our cost of goods sold. And another way I went about doing that is just knowing that 150 units were sold based on our beginning inventory cost of $5 a unit. Now as we move on to May, we know that we have 550 units sitting in our inventory, and then it told us that we had another purchase here of 250, but we sold 300 and we sold 50. So we sold 350 units, and we're going to take that from our beginning inventory, that the ending inventory in April began our beginning inventory in May. So our ending inventory is basically going to consist of our purchase here of 250 units at $5.50 a unit. We've got 100 units, excuse me, that we had 550 units here. If we sold 350, we had 200 units left over, which would be 100 units at $5.75, and we would have 100 of these units left over at $5.50. So you see 100 units at $5.50, 100 units at $5.75 gives us our 450 units at $2,500. Now to determine our cost of goods sold, we know we started $2,925, and that consisted of these various units here. So we know that we sold 350 units. So we had to have sold 250 of these units at $5, and then we also sold another 100 units at $5.50. So we can see here that basically how they're doing it is showing our ending inventory, beginning inventory plus our purchases minus our ending inventory gives us our cost of goods sold. But another way that we could calculate that cost of goods sold is to take the 250 units at $5 that was sold, and 100 of these units at $5.50 was sold. So basically we can still come up with the same amount of $1,800 by specifically listing that inventory that was sold. The next one that we're going to do is looking at FIFO perpetual. So as we can look over here at FIFO perpetual, under FIFO perpetual we're going to keep a continual account of our cost of goods sold. So we know we had a balance here of 400. We have a purchase here of another 200. And when we sold 150 units here, we sold them based on the initial beginning units of the 400. So here we show our beginning inventory. We show our purchases. We added our purchases here. We kept it current. Then when we show a sale of 150 units, we're showing that based on the 400 units at $5 a unit. So as we take that out, you can see we only end now with 250 units at $5 a unit, and then those 200 units at $5.50. As we add our additional purchase, we add that to show our ending balance here of $2,929 that's sitting in ending inventory. In May, we'll start our beginning inventory with what was ending in April. We'll show a purchase of an additional 250 units at $5.50 a unit. Then when we show our sale of 300 units, we're going to take 250 of those units from the $5 a unit allotment, and then we'll take 50 of those units from the $5.50 allotment to show our $1,525. The 4,300 minus our $1,525 gives us a new inventory available of $2,775. Then you see we sold an additional 50 units. Well, when we look at those 50 units, we can take those from the 150 units sitting here at $5.50 a unit. So if our cost of goods sold with this batch is $275, we can take our $2,775, subtract from it our $275 to give us our new inventory balance of $2,500. So our total cost of goods sold in May would be the $1,525 plus the $275 to give us our $1,800 cost of goods sold. Now as we move on with LIFO periodic, again, remember with periodic, we're only going to take a physical count at the end of the period. So we're going to look at LIFO showing our balance of 400. We had a purchase of 200, a sale of 150, and another purchase on April 28th of 100. So as you see under periodic with LIFO, we're going to take the last end is the first out. So, and let me just confirm our LIFO amount will be the cost of the inventory on April 1st under LIFO is $2 per unit. So we know that the 400 units is calculated at $2 a unit. So we're going to have all that still sitting in ending inventory at the end of the period. And we will have 50 units left over from a purchase of $5.50 a unit to come up with our ending inventory under periodic of $1,075. Again, it's important to note here that even though on April 28th we have a purchase here of 100, under the periodic we will take that purchase as our first sale for cost of goods sold. So when we sold 150, we'll show 100 of that was at $5.75 and 50 is at the $5.50 purchase. So that gives us our periodic and then our cost of goods sold will show what we started the period with plus our purchases minus our ending inventory gives us our cost of goods sold of $8.50. Another way we can look at figuring out cost of goods sold is to take the purchase of 100 at $5.75 and the purchase of 50 here at $5.50 to come up with our total cost of goods sold of $8.50. Now, as we start with May, remember we're going to begin our May beginning inventory with what we ended our April ending inventory of $1,625. And then we see here in May that we had a purchase of 250 at $5.50. So we know that when we sold the 350, 250 had to come from this 550, and then we'll also then take into another 100 based on the purchase on April 17th. LIFO means last in is the first out. So we've got, for our ending inventory, let me go back here again, we know that we have in ending inventory 450 units. 400 of those will be our April 1st units, plus 50 will be our April 17th purchase. So as you can see here, we've got our ending inventory of 1,075. If we take our beginning inventory plus our purchases during May minus our ending inventory, that'll give us our cost of goods sold of $19.25. Again, another way to look at that is we sold the 250 units here at $5.50 and 50 of these units at $5.50. Remember, this entire 100 units were sold under the periodic when we sold it on April 25th. So we are showing the LIFO periodic. Now, LIFO perpetual is going to be a little different than LIFO periodic because we keep a constant track of our cost of goods sold. So as you see here, we show our beginning inventory and our purchases. When we sell the 150 units, we're going to sell these 200 units, the most current in, at $5.50 a unit for $8.25. We then update our new inventory of 50 units at $5.50. We had 200 we purchased. We sold 150, so we're at 50 units here. Then we purchased an additional 100 units at $5.75 to show we have an inventory balance here of $16.50, and we see here we sold $825 into our cost of goods sold. We will start our May beginning inventory with our ending inventory of April of $16.50. So we will show that. We show our purchase of 250 units to come up with a new goods available. Then we sold 300 units. We're going to sell these 250 units first. Then we're going to take 50 units from this grouping here at $5.75 a unit to show our $1,662.50 left, or excuse me, in cost of goods sold. If we subtract that from our goods available, that gives us our new goods available of $1,362.50. We then sold another 50 units. We're going to sell again the most current units, 50 units at $5.75. So under the perpetual, remember we continue to update after each sale. Now, when we deal with the weighted average, what we're going to do is continually take our inventory plus all of our purchases to come up with a weighted average, which means our total cost divided by our units available. So as you can see here, we started with 400 units and we purchased 300 units, so we have available 700 units. If we take our total cost of goods, divide that by our 700 units, we'll see that the average cost is going to be $4.678. So our ending inventory is going to use that figure, and our cost of goods sold will also use that same figure. So we know our ending inventory is what we're going to begin May with. So we start May with our 2,573. We're going to adjust to a new inventory weighted average. We take our purchases and we show our 3948 divided by our total units available in May, 800 units, gives us a new average cost of $4.935. So again, our ending inventory and our cost of goods sold will be determined by taking that weighted average of 4.935. Now, when they ask for a moving average, what we'll do is continually update that moving average. So in doing this, you have to use the perpetual method. We start with our beginning inventory and then create our purchase to show the total amount of $2,700 divided by 600 units gives us the unit price of $4.50. So when we sell on April 25th, 150 units, we'll take that $4.50 unit price. And then from there, we know we have available still 450 units at that unit price of $4.50. When we purchase on April 28th, we're going to then have to, again, create a new average. So we take our 450 units at $4.50, add our 100 units at $5.75. Here we've got 550 units, $2,600. Divide that by 550 units, gives us our $4.7273 per unit. So we're going to show our beginning inventory for May to be the ending inventory in April. So as we carry this forward, 550 units at $4.7273. We've got our $2,600. We have another purchase of 250 units at $5.50. Again, we need to recompute our new average. We would take the $39.75, divide that by 800 units, gives us our new unit cost. When we sell 300 units, we're going to use that unit cost of 4.9688. So as we know, our remaining units in inventory are going to be valued at 4.9688 as well as our cost of goods. We're going to continue with that same unit cost because we haven't added any new purchases to alter that unit cost. So on the May 22nd sale, we will also use that same unit price of 4.9688, and our cost of goods sold will be the combination of the two, $17.39, and our ending inventory will use that same unit price of 4.9688 to give us our ending inventory of May of $22.36. Now, let's look and see what they ask us here. The next part is to ask, reconcile and explain the differences between the LIFO periodic and the LIFO perpetual. Remember, as we were looking at the LIFO periodic, even though the sale occurred before the last purchase, we were able to take that. So as you can see here, with the periodic versus the perpetual, our April periodic showed cost of goods sold of $8.50 and our ending inventory was $16.25. But do you see under perpetual, our cost of goods sold was $8.25, leaving us with an ending inventory of $16.50. So the difference of $25 in a higher cost of goods sold under the periodic versus the perpetual came about, and that also resulted in a lower ending inventory using the periodic versus the perpetual of $25. Now in May, our periodic showed $19.25, but our perpetual was at $19.50. So you can see the difference again of $25, but our ending inventory remained the same for both periods. So as you see here, the $25 difference was because the 100 units purchased at $575 on April 28th were assumed to be sold under the periodic method, but you can't do that under the perpetual method. So very beneficial for you to take some time and really work on your homework assignment so you can understand the differences here.